Chyba mamy gościa naszego.
Mamy gościa, słuchajcie, i to jest naprawdę sztos, bo Marcin, powiedz w ogóle, kim jest nasz gość?
To jest mój agent, Toddem Ramasarem, który dołączy do nas i właśnie dostaliśmy informację, dlatego połączymy się przez słuchawki. Todd, can you hear me?
I hear you perfect.
All right, how are you, man?
Good, man. I'm seeing we got a rematch of the finals right here, the Pacers and the Thunder. Love it.
Yes, we are talking actually about the finals right now. So what we're going to do is I'm going to obviously speak English to you, and you got to give us a couple seconds so we can translate, all right? Just in case after a question. All right, so my first question, what's your opinion about the finals? What did you see? By the way, how many players you had in the finals? Because as far as I know, Pascal, Thomas Bryant, and
Andrew Nemhart.
Right.
Yeah, so on Pacers, Pascal and Andrew. On the Oklahoma City Thunder, AJ Mitchell, Adam Flagler.
So you had
No
5
Thomas.
guys.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So can you tell us how many guys you have in the NBA right now?
You know, after tonight, Martin, I think we'll be up to 19.
You have 19 players right now.
Two clients drafted in first round last night, so they're on guaranteed contracts. Cedric Coward, that got drafted to Portland and traded.
I love the guy. He'll be amazing.
And Nick Clifford, that was drafted by the Oklahoma City Thunder at 24 and traded to Sacramento.
Hey Todd, this is amazing. I mean, as far as I know, the last time I was checking obviously a couple years ago when I was leaving the NBA, I think you had like 7, 8 of them, and you want to tell them that you tripled that pretty much. You tripled that. So, when you picking players? Obviously, you wanna represent them. When you picking players, because there's a lot of young guys watching us right now. Mm-hmm. What's your main thing you focus on?
Well, you know, obviously the talent has to be there, right? Positionally, as it relates to the NBA, because at the end of the day, it's not what I think, it's what NBA teams think, right? Mm-hmm. So we know positionally, if NBA teams are looking at a point guard, you likely have, at a minimum, have to be 6'2" on average or taller, right? 6'4". You know, have that position as an example, like those are baselines. If you're a big man, as you know, Marcin, you better be a rim protector, right? You better be a lob threat, and you better run the floor. Like at the basic, like you have to be a defensive player first as a big, and then secondary offense as a big, because as you know, unless you're Jokic, you're not having offense run through you. So what I look for is talent first, and those positional attributes that NBA teams seem to favor. And then I look at the player as an individual, like what's their family background and dynamic, you know, what's their work ethic? Do they love the game? You know, what elite skill do they have, right?
Got it. When you obviously talking to the players, are you going as far as even like checking the social media, what they posting, who they are? Are they the family guys? Are they like knuckleheads and, you know, they party and they posting pictures from party and stuff like that? Are you checking on that too?
100%. And if I'm not checking, the reason I'm checking is because NBA teams are checking it.
Right. Obviously, so they will see the same thing what you will see, right? Have you seen, mm-hmm.
Yeah, because if they see anything that could later be viewed as a detriment to the team or to the community that NBA team is, like that's a red flag for a young player coming into the NBA.
Is obviously you don't have to tell the player, but have you ever had a conversation where you spoke to a player and you said like, okay, I like the guy, but then you went to talk to him and you heard something that you were like, oh, like hell no, or like there's no way I'm going to represent this guy. You don't have to tell the name. Did you have a situation like that? And if you did, what did he say that turns you off?
Yeah, it's happened before The thing, like, I'm gonna obviously do my homework and gather feedback on players before I sit down with them to assume if it's a good fit, right? If those boxes are checked and now we're sitting down, the things that could quote unquote turn me off is when I start talking about the work, like the type of workouts, the discipline, the diet, the nutrition, your appearance, your professionalism. If the player goes the other way where they're not embracing what I'm saying, and you could pretty much see it in body language and questions and so forth, I know it's not going to work.
We do have obviously Polish guy in our in the league, Jeremy Sohan in San Antonio. San Antonio has drafted obviously 2 players, and one of them is Harper. What do you think? What's going to be his situation in the NBA right now? Do you think? Obviously, he's going to battle at the training camp, and obviously he's going to try to stay in the team and fight for his spot in the starting lineup. What do you think? What's his situation right now?
I without knowing the specifics, guys, I can't comment on that because I don't know. I'm not privy to those conversations. Mm-hmm. I can tell you if I'm representing him and just on the surface, right, outside looking in, is whether they just drafted 2 new guys and somebody in the second round and so forth, is you got to have a big off season. Like you know this better than anybody, Martin. Your off season dictates your in season. So it's not just about
he's gonna play for the national team. At least we hope. He's gonna play for the national team, and I think this is a perfect opportunity for him to get a lot of touches and create some opportunities for himself. And then based on the hopefully on a good tournament, and especially that the tournament is here in our country, he can go right away into the NBA and join the training camp. He's in shape. He's going to probably play maybe close to 10 games, and he's going to be ready for the season. And if he's going to have a good off season, then he should this thing should translate into a regular season.
Right.
Because you told us you represent Cedric Coward. Let us get some insight in his game, because he was a player from Division 3 of NCAA. Then he made some progress through various stages. And right now he got picked with 11th pick. It's extremely high pick. How did you find him, and what's so special about his game?
Yeah, so I found him because he was recommended from the assistant coaches from Washington State. And at the time, those coaches were at Eastern Washington, where Cedric was at. Cedric was interviewing agents, and I had never met him before in person. We did the meeting virtually over Zoom. And I think the meeting was about 3 hours, and I gave a presentation, and I had watched his film, and I really appreciated his game in terms of how it translated, because what I saw was the foundations of a young player that was a 3-level scorer that not only could shoot the 3, shoot at the elbows or second box, or even get to the rim and finish above the rim or get fouled. But I guess, he's a 4-level scorer because he started his career as a big man, so he could score off the block. So that was the first thing in terms of our meeting. But once I brought him to our gym and I saw his jump shot and we took his measurables, I mean, the kid is 6'6.5" with shoes on. He has a 7'2" wingspan as a guard wing. His hands are huge. I mean, if I put my hands up to his, it's like this, and I don't hands. And his stroke was just a repeatable shot. He shot 40% from 3. So as I started to have our coaches work with him, it wasn't just what he can do on the court, as I mentioned, as a 3-level scorer and even having post game. It was his mind. Cedric has this ability, which I tell all young people, like, listen. Don't talk, just listen. When somebody has more experience, listen, process, apply. So Cedric's superpower is he's smart enough to know, like, surround himself with good people or advisors that know what they're talking about, me being one of them. The counsel that I give Cedric, he could take it by listening, he'll process it, and he'll apply it immediately. And that also goes not just with me as his agent, but with his coaches. So, and he does that very quickly. So as a player, you can imagine that has a work ethic and he's surrounded with great coaches or advisors. He's accelerating his process in terms of his learning curve. And you take that and you apply that to his physical gifts, because he's built like Kawhi Leonard and Jalen Williams coming out of college. I always say he's a hybrid of both of those players.
Okay, because it's very interesting as you as an agent, that are you trying to steer your client into a special situation? Because it's like we saw this process with Ace Bailey, with 8 other agents during this draft. And are you trying to steer your player during draft into a very certain situation?
Direct him. Like, are you trying to direct him because there was a situation that one of the players didn't want to go to Utah, and he didn't want to go to the workout with them pre-workouts, and basically, he basically was maybe not saying directly, but he was like, I don't want to go there, so that's why he didn't go to the practice with them. And I think it was a Utah.
And they still pick him.
And they said, like, fuck it, we're still gonna pick you, you know. So did you have a situation like that? Are you trying to direct players into a certain teams?
I am. It's almost like, Marcin, as you experience, like free agency.
I know. I know, because we spoke about this, but I need you to answer this loud.
Yeah. So, the only difference is, like, when you're an unrestricted free agent, it's like wherever you choose, you could go. In the draft, you're still beholden to the team that has the pick at any given time that could draft you, whether you want to go there or not. So, yes, I've tried to direct my guys to certain organizations. Some of it may be based on just fit. Like, what's the roster makeup? What's the age of that roster in terms of players in my client's position? Who's the head coach? What's the organization's history of development? Sometimes organizations will pick players not to make a point, even when they don't want to go there. But a lot of times people work under assumptions, whereas an organization may say, like, hey, we're moving in another direction. For example, Utah Jazz, their president of basketball operations just came from Boston Celtics, Austin Ainge, Danny Ainge's son. So if you're judging the Utah Jazz, if you're judging the Utah Jazz based on what they've done in recent past, you could be inaccurate off of an assumption, because really now, in some ways, they're drafting like the Boston Celtics or building like the Boston Celtics, right? So even though on the surface, an Ace Bailey or whoever may be, not as enthusiastic about Utah, for example, they may be pleasantly surprised to see that it's a different organization once they're there. And that's not saying anything was wrong with Utah before, but if they're working off assumptions, they could be wrong.
Is it about the best possible fit or more about highest possible pick? Because it's like connected with a high amount of money, obviously.
This is just my opinion. You can't be short-sighted, right? And what I mean by that is, yes, it's better to be drafted high because it's more money. But if you get drafted, say 10 versus 13 because you're chasing just the contract, you could end up in a bad situation at 10, whereas otherwise, if you're at 13, you're looking at a much more substantial contract going into your second contract beyond your rookie deal. So fit always takes precedence.
Okay, Todd, last question, because we're going to let you go. Are you taking care of women too, WNBA?
You know what? Not yet, but I plan to.
Well, if you're gonna do it, trust me, I have two golden girls in Europe, and they both from Poland. And trust me, we're gonna speak about that.
All right, let's talk. MG, you already know. Yeah,
you're gonna love them. Trust me, they are unbelievable.
So just last farewell question for you, because it's very huge time of the year for you. Last night. It was first round. Now today is the second round of draft. How many players do you have in the second round of draft? How optimistic are you?
I have several second round prospects. Probably 2 or 3 will be drafted tonight. So that's what the goal is here in a few hours.
Okay, and do you anticipate like having them leaving the second round for the contract, for the promise of the contract, or is like
Or they're going to go back to Europe?
just trying to get a pick?
No, we're gonna get contracts for them.
Awesome.
Now, whether that's roster contracts or two-way contracts, that's yet to be determined, but they'll be under contract with an NBA roster.
That's amazing. Best of
Toddem,
luck for you.
appreciate you. I'm going to get back to you when the ladies are 18 years old and they're going to the WNBA. I will give you a call, all right?
Okay, sounds good, Martin. Appreciate you guys having me.
Thanks,
All right,
Todd.
Thank you.
Good
Goodbye.
guys.
Thank you.